college football playoffs are set. Alabama made it somehow, depending on who you are. If you're Gary, you celebrated wildly at the reveal of the playoff rankings yesterday. If you like Florida State, you were crushed and heartbroken. If you don't really care for Alabama football and don't really care for Florida State football, which I don't know if you know anybody like that necessarily, yesterday was going to be meh, either way. But anyways, Gary, did you celebrate yesterday? Did you have a good time?
Not really, actually. So here's what's crazy. We were leaving the house to go do some, Sunday lunch stuff. I was watching it before we left, but they drag this stuff out so much. It's really annoying. Like, I get you want to build drama and stuff, but like just reveal the teams. And so we had to leave. And so I didn't put it on in the car, nothing like that. It's December, so it's after Thanksgiving. We're allowed to play Christmas music now. So that's what we were doing. And we're driving down the road, Apple CarPlay, you got your phone plugged in and it'll pop up your text messages on the screen. I had like 2 different text threads with a lot of Alabama fans that just started about 11:30, I guess, yesterday. Mm-hmm. Just started going pop, 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 pop. And I went, we're in. So, hey, I don't want to say I'm not surprised, but you did have a tweet that I responded to on Saturday night. And I said, it's going to be Michigan 1, Washington 2, Texas 3, Bama 4. Nostradamus. Never in doubt. I said it after the Iron Bowl. Never in doubt.
Yeah, don't pull a muscle patting yourself on the back too hard there, Gary.
I'm nursing it right now.
But all that being said, we are not here to talk about the college football playoffs. We've got some big high school football games in the state this week. The Super 7 has been set. This is the Under the Lights podcast. We'll break them down for you. All 7 state championship games plus 2 flag football games taking place at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa this week. Gary, let's start with Class 6A because both of us were at the semifinal last week. Clay-Chalkville hosting Parker. Clay-Chalkville ends up winning 38-13. It kind of pulled away in the second half, make it somewhat of a rout. Have you ever seen that many people at Cougar Stadium? Because I don't know if I have.
Oh, I mean, maybe some of those 2014 crowds might have rivaled it, but we both saw a mutual friend after the game talking about standing, between the stands and the fence, and him being like, "I'm not moving. Like, if I got to go to the bathroom, I'll wait till after the game. I'm not going to get a hot dog. I'm not moving," because it was. I mean, that place was packed to the gills Friday night. So I don't know that I've seen more, but maybe I've seen just as many. But yeah, it was definitely a packed house, and that was awesome to see. And that's what it ought to be this time of year, especially a semifinal game like that. It ought to be just standing room only, and it really was.
Yeah, and that big crowd got treated to a Clay-Chalkville win. Let's talk about it a little bit. Clay-Chalkville jumps out ahead. They score 2 touchdowns in the opening quarter, go up 14-0. It looks like the game is fully in their hands. And then Parker gets some life as Jalen Mbakwe throws a pick six to big-time prospect Naeem Alford for Parker. And he flew down the sideline for that pick six, went about 65 yards, and that guy can fly. Got Parker back in a little bit, and then late or midway through the second quarter, Mbakwe goes out. He throws a touchdown pass to put Clay up 21-7, but on the play, he is hit hard. Still not 100% sure exactly what happened, but he gets hit hard. He gets knocked out of the game, and he's on the sideline the rest of the way. So you're thinking some sort of, possible concussion. We don't really know all that stuff, but he didn't play the rest of the game. He was really confident Friday night that he'll be back next week, or back this week. But we'll find out as the week progresses. So there's a little wrench there. But then the big story from Friday night was backup quarterback Aaron Fry coming in the game, leading Clay-Chalkville to a 17-0 run in the second half. and punctuated by his 79-yard touchdown run up the middle to put it away. Clay-Chalkville's defense, incredible as always. Parker really struggled to move the ball all night. And just a really impressive all-around performance for the Cougars. Face some adversity, get through it, pull away at the end, and they're back to the state championship game for the second time in 3 years.
Yeah, I think this Clay-Chalkville team really got in the heads of Parker. I think that probably started at the outset. You go up 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, and Parker, they're obviously a really good team. But we've talked about them, previewing this game. We talked about it when they beat Mountain Brook to win that region. They're not necessarily a team built to come from behind. So a good start from Clay-Chalkville like that, I think Parker was already like, a little startled, a little dazed. They're not going to throw the ball a ton, and I mean, even when they had to, I mean, Cam Jennings finishes 4 of 13 for 35 yards. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. So credit to Clay-Chalkville's defense there, but yeah, they get that 65-yard INT return, and you thought, okay, it's starting to flip.
Mm-hmm.
And then very quickly, Jalen Mbakwe throws that touchdown pass. And, we were standing right there, and, I was videoing a little bit of that, and I get Jalen rolling out. And as soon as he threw the ball, I was panning toward the ball. So went back to try to look at that video and didn't see the hit, but it was certainly big enough and high enough that, that it knocked him out of the game. And it looked like it was a particular Parker player who was called for a late hit on the opening kickoff of the third quarter. And, so that's kind of what I mean about getting in their heads a little bit. You start to play in a way that's a little bit maybe undisciplined. You let emotions get the best of you, and Clay-Chalkville just, put the pedal down. When we talked to Mountain Brook head coach Chris Yeager last week, he talked about how disciplined that Parker team was when they played. Only called for one penalty the whole game. I think it was maybe something procedural, just a little 5-yard deal, and they accumulated some flags Friday against Clay-Chalkville, especially in the second half. So I think Clay and that fan base we talked about being packed like that maybe rattled some guys a little bit, and then Clay-Chalkville just proved that they are definitely the better team. 38-13 speaks for itself. And yeah, Aaron Fry, that was cool. It was especially cool getting to talk to him after the game. He just smile on his face. You couldn't wipe it off his face. And we asked him about that 79-yard run because he slipped on the exchange
Mm-hmm.
and or on the snap, and just somehow slithered through the middle and was just absolutely gone. We asked him post game, did anybody have a chance at catching you? And just very quickly, no need to expand on it. Just no, they weren't going to get me. So a really cool moment for a young quarterback who will be most likely taking the reins next year. And something like this can certainly build his confidence and proves that he's ready when his number is called. And just all around, just you lose your starting QB in Mbakwe in the second quarter, and you go on to win in that fashion. So a lot of confidence for the offense, a ton of confidence for a defense that was stingy Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look to get a report from practice sometime this week ahead of the state championship game to get some updates on that as far as the quarterback situation goes. But yeah, as you mentioned, Fry's a sophomore. Clay might be getting 2 really good years out of the quarterback position after this one. Older brother Ashton was also a good player in the area and is at Jacksonville State now. So love to see that for that kid, their family. But Clay-Chalkville will be looking for the program's 4th state title. They're playing a Saraland team that we've talked about all year, how dominant this team is, how good they've looked. And it'll be Clay-Chalkville versus Saraland. Friday night, 7 o'clock. It'll cap off the Super 7. But let's go ahead and talk about this game. These two programs met in the 2014 final. And at that point in time, Clay-Chalkville was the record-setting offense, and Saraland was kind of the up-and-coming program at the time. this time around, Saraland has the record-breaking offense, big-time prospects on the field, and they look nearly unbeatable. They blew out Pike Road last week in the semifinals. Clay-Chalkville was going to have their hands full. And Gary, what do you think the Cougars have to do to stay in this game, to have a chance to have an opportunity to raise the blue map? Which sounds odd to say about a Clay-Chalkville football team. That what do they have to do in order to win the game?
I mean, first and foremost, you've got to have Jalen Mbakwe. I mean,
I would agree.
He gets knocked out of that Parker game like we talked about. They'll go through all the necessary steps, whatever those are that they have to make sure he's good to go. He was in high spirits on the sideline, when he came back out in the second half. So I don't think you'll keep him out of this game. I think he'll play. I'm not a doctor, but I think he's going to play in this game. I think you might see a lot of him. You might need him to play both ways. He got in a little bit, near the end of that Muscle Shoals game, playing defensive back. Wouldn't that be cool to see him? I mean, he's going to have to play quarterback and play it well, but it would be cool to see Alabama commit Jalen Mbakwe playing defensive back against Alabama wide receiver commit Ryan Williams in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Yeah.
You're just loving this Alabama content today.
Absolutely.
But that would be really cool to see. But I mean, it's a state championship. It's best on best. Like, can Mbakwe keep doing what Mbakwe has done all year? Can that passing game continue to be as prolific as it's been these playoffs? Before he got knocked out, he was like 7 of 8 for 120 yards, something like that. He threw the pick six, but other than the pick six, he was perfect.
Threw a great deep ball to Mario Craver too.
He did. That set up a 53-yard bomb. Yeah, that was a really good throw. So, can they be effective in that way? And then that Clay-Chalkville defense, like I said, best on best. Can you slow down? That they've got a really good running back at Saraland. Can you stuff him? Can you cover Ryan Williams at all? Can you limit him? Can you get pressure on the quarterback Lacey, who's committed to Texas? I mean, this is an all-world Class 6A state championship game, and at this time of year, matchups are matchups, but you're going best on best. Like, we think we've gotten to this point by getting it to Ryan Williams. We've gotten to this point by running and throwing Jalen Mbakwe, and you just roll them out there and just say who's best. It comes down to execution. So excited to see it, and if we get anything close to the second half of the Clay-Chalkville Saraland game that we saw in 2014, it's going to be a wild night in Tuscaloosa, because that coming down the stretch of that game was, I know you were there. I was in the press box covering it at Jordan-Hare, and that second half was crazy, especially, 5 minutes to go, we get down on the field, and a lot happened then. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, who is going to win this thing? And, Ty Pigram runs for a long touchdown run to take the lead for good, and Clay-Chalkville, stopped Saraland at the end and won it 36-31. So hopefully we're in for another classic like that.
Yep. Saraland, it should be noted, is the defending state champion. They beat Mountain Brook in the championship game last year, have not lost this year. They're the team to beat right now, and they've proven that all year long. So we'll see what Clay-Chalkville can do. I think it'll be a really interesting game to see the contrast in styles, so to speak. We saw when Clay-Chalkville beat Thompson earlier in the year. It's kind of a similar deal. Like, Clay-Chalkville went in as the underdog, and it took a while to maybe kind of feel their way into the game. But in the second half, a special performance from Jalen Mbakwe as he, scored a whole lot of touchdowns and led the team to the victory. So you're going to need an effort like that from, if not Mbakwe, like, you're going to need a special effort from somebody in order to win a game like that. And the defense is, this is going to be potentially the best defense Saraland has seen all year. So there's something to be said for that. And you just never know how these games play out. There's something about being on that big stage and in a championship game with the lights on that it's kind of put up or shut up time. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm interested. Like, we know these. We always talk about guys like the quarterback Lacey, about Ryan Williams, about Jalen Mbakwe, but like I want to see how obviously like the offensive and defensive lines perform. Like who can push who, and if you want to go back to a skill position, I saw a lot out of that running back Aaron Isley for Clay-Chalkville against Parker. I mean, I saw it at Muscle Shoals too, where he had a good game there. But that Parker defense has been tough all year, and 38 points is crazy. But Isley just kind of, I don't know, he just kind of moves the pile. He can get 4 or 5 yards, and like if you can ride a guy like him, like Taurus Chambers as well, and maybe keep that Saraland offense, off the field as much as possible, and sustain some long drives, maybe that helps. And Osley has certainly been encouraging the last couple of weeks. I mean he's done it in the passing game too. He caught that touchdown pass where Mbakwe was knocked out of the game. So, I mean, he had 40-something receiving yards and a touchdown. He ran for 54 yards and a touchdown and just kind of a gritty running performance. So, I think a guy like that you can kind of flex a little bit, like he can run it, he can catch it. I think a guy like that could come up big for you in a game like this.
I like it. Once again, Friday night, 7 o'clock. It's the Class 6A championship game is set. Now let's talk about the 7A game that will kick off in a way. We'll run through the order here in a minute. There's a couple flag football championship games early in the day on Wednesday, but this is the standalone tackle football game on Wednesday night. Thompson, Central Phoenix City at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. These teams met in 2018, 2019, and 2021 state championship games. Central in the 2018 championship game, that's the last time Thompson has lost in the playoffs. And that night, Central's defense made life miserable for Talia Tungabaloa. Central's defense really showed up to play, and they blew Thompson out of the water. And since that day, 5 years ago now, Thompson has not lost in the playoffs. They've won 4 straight state championships, going for a 5th. But I think they've met their match finally. This Central team that they'll face on Wednesday night seems like the first team that really can go toe-to-toe with Thompson, and if all things are equal, has a chance in this game, right? Central doesn't need Thompson to play poorly, or they don't have to play some out-of-this-world game in order to be on the field with Thompson. So I think this is going to be a great game. This Central team has been, they're in the news a lot because they've got a 5-star receiver in Cam Coleman who he recently flipped his commitment to Auburn. So he's been in the news the last week. He is the type of guy, like I saw him first game of the year against Hewitt-Trussville. He goes for like 150 and 2 touchdowns. Well, last week in the semifinal game against Mary Montgomery decides, we're going to double Cam Coleman. We're not going to let this guy beat us. So what happens? Dalen Upshaw on the opposite side, he goes for $170 and a couple touchdowns. And it's just like, well, what do you do? Like, you pick your poison. They made Upshaw beat him. Upshaw's a junior. He's starting to get some looks on the recruiting trail as well. So it's going to be really, really interesting. This is the battle of probably the most prolific 7A offense with Central. You got quarterback Andrew Alford, who's only gotten better as the season's gone on. As he transferred in the off season and has really, really come along. You've just got they were averaging 45 points a game, something like that, against the Thompson defense that gives up nothing. So I'm really looking forward to the Cam Coleman versus Anquan Fagans battle on the outside. You think there'll be some trash talk to that matchup? I tend to think just a little bit, but Gary, I don't know. What do you think about this game?
I don't know. Like I feel like the rest of this week, like I woke up today, thinking about this podcast, being like, I think this is the team that that topples Thompson. I think Central has enough and gets it done. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up and be like, Seaborn's going to throw for 3 touchdowns and like run for another, and Thompson's going to lift that map again.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
it's coin flip. You know, I mean, we said it at the outset. These have been the 2 best teams in 7A all year long. They meet now. Put up or shut up time. So, you know, I think both of them have basically an equal shot at winning this thing. Who can execute? Which of these quarterbacks, you know, can limit turnovers, or, you know, just even if there's no turnovers, can play mistake-free football. You know, I think there's a lot on the quarterbacks in this game in particular, and I don't know which one wins out. You know, I know, you know, our buddy Jeff Allison at Alabama 7A football. You know, he tells us all the time when we're talking about Central. He's like, they're just so big. You know, you just watch them in warm-ups, and it's like watching a college team. And, you know, I always think back to that Thompson Clay-Chalkville game and how big Clay-Chalkville's offensive line is. And it's like, well, maybe there's an advantage there. I don't know. But really just looking forward just to sitting back and watching this one. And, you know, hopefully we get a good competitive game. It seems like we should. And we don't often get that in these 7A games. I'm going to look real quick. So, like, 7A comes about in 2014. Every 7A title game has been decided by double digits except for 2015 and 2020. These things have not been close, but I think we're going to add one in the close games column this year. It just seems like both these teams are too talented for either one of them to run away from the other.
Yeah, well, you know, you say today you feel like Central's going to win. You know, I told you guys like a month ago that December the 6th was going to be the day of the Red Devils. Well, the flag football team held up its end of the bargain. The football team's here now. But I'm like you. Like, every time I think about this game, it's something different. It's, well, you know, Central's got a chance, but then it's like, well, Thompson's like, you see a guy like Trent Seaborn, he excelled on this stage last year as an 8th grader. So, you know, he's been in the big moments. He's made all the plays. And one thing that I've noticed in the last 2 playoff rounds is Trent is just so calm, so steady, and knows in big moments, you know, they've leaned on running back AJ Green a lot, and they're probably going to do it again on Wednesday. And then you've got, look, if Central doesn't cover the Deuce Oliver on the crossing routes, they're going to get killed because,
good night.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you try to take away Hearn and Landrew on the outside, and then Deuce Oliver they swing it out to him, they hit him on the crossers, and it's just 8 yards. It's just, I mean, it's just down the field they go, and it's really difficult to stop if you don't take that away. So I don't know, man. Thompson's been there, done that. They know how to win on this level. Mark Freeman is as good as they come. So we'll see. I do think like you, though. I do think this is going to be one of those highly competitive, really good football games against 2 great teams. So excited about that.
What do you think? What's the winning score got to be in one like this? I struggle so much with it because, like, both teams are, like, Thompson's really, really good defensively. Central's pretty good defensively. Both are really good offensively. Like for one of these teams to win, they have to score X points. What do you think the number is?
I'd say 31. I mean, I do.
31?
I think I take a lot from that Clay-Chalkville Thompson game that we saw earlier this year, where when needed, Thompson can score. Like, they can score with you. Like, that's no problem. Now, they don't have to do that. They could easily just sit down and beat you 17-0 and not sweat it. But, like, similar to Clay, like, Central has big play capability. Like, Cam Coleman is going to hit a few big ones, and he'll probably score on 1 or 2 of them. Like we saw last week, Upshaw can do the same thing. I mean, I think you're gonna have your explosive plays in this game on both sides. So I don't think this is gonna be like a 14-13 type of game. But what do I know? It'll be 3-2.
I was curious what you thought, because, like, I kind of went back and forth thinking about it, and my number was ultimately 30. So we're pretty close in our thinking there.
Yeah. So Wednesday night, be there. It's gonna be pretty competitive. And then I mean, you kind of like to think there will be a heavy contingent from both sides, especially considering that Central's got two teams playing on Wednesday. So should be a good environment there in Tuscaloosa. All right, Gary. Well, let's kind of set the table for the Super 7 as a whole. We mentioned it starts Wednesday. You've got two girls flag football championship games. This is the last year that flag football is considered an emerging sport in the state of Alabama. Next year, they'll start playing for the blue map, the red map, and all that. But this year, they're playing for a state championship. It's not officially recognized. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But
not sanctioned, right?
Yeah. Well, it is sanctioned. It's just not like a full bore thing yet. It's still in progress. But this is the first year they've had two divisions. The 1A through 5A division, you'll have Catholic Montgomery and Winona playing at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. And then right after that, you'll have the 6A, 7A championship game between Vestavia Hills and Central Phoenix City. So come out and join us for those. And then at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night, Thompson will play Central. Gary, I'm eagerly awaiting your breakdown of the 6A, 7A flag football championship, key players to watch. What do you think of the final score? What do you got?
I know absolutely nothing about it. But and it's not a disrespect thing. I'm not in this stuff full time anymore like you are. And so really, I really want to turn that question around on you and see what you think.
Fair enough. Now, Vestavia honestly has had a great year. They've been playing really well. Central is unbeaten. So this is going to be a great showing. I mean, everybody knows my softball connections, and Central has a lot of softball. They got the softball coach, got a lot of softball players. So I've seen them play earlier this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing them as well. But regardless, we will be covering that game with Vestavia as well. So that's what you got on Wednesday. On Thursday, 3 football games. You've got the 3A state championship, the 1A state championship, and the 5A championship game. And then on Friday, 4A, 2A, and 6A to cap it off. We'll just kind of briefly run through these in class order. The 1A championship is Leroy versus Coosa Christian. Don't be fooled by the 9-5 record by Coosa Christian's name. Those are they had some forfeits. They had some things to sort through with eligibility and all that. But Coosa Christian is very good. Leroy is your defending state champion. Gary, I don't know if you read anything about Leroy's semifinal game against Elba last week, but my buddy Kenneth Baggett's texted me Friday night. He's like, "Oh my goodness, man, this game was nuts." I think Leroy was up. They were up 2 scores at the half, and then in the third quarter, they fumbled the ball twice, leading to Elba touchdowns to take the lead. And then Leroy fumbled it again, and Elba got a field goal out of it late in the game. But then, backs against the wall, Braden Hubner said, "We're not losing tonight." They convert a 3rd and long for like a 23-yard touchdown pass with under a minute to go to win the game. So all of that chaos, and Leroy's got a chance to defend their 1A state crown against a really good Coosa team. So that'll be Thursday afternoon. 2A. Fife is playing Reeltown. Fife is no stranger to the state championship. Fife won it all last year. Reeltown actually lost to Fife in 2019. So Fife running back Logan Anderson, I think his goal is to score 10 touchdowns a game. That seems to be kind of what he does. He scores a lot of touchdowns. He's back this year. In 3A, Mobile Christian taking on Madison Academy on Thursday morning. Both of these teams are unbeaten. Mobile Christian is looking for their first state title. Madison Academy last won it in 2014. So whichever team wins this one, it'll be a long time coming, so to speak. The 4A game will take place Friday morning. That's between Catholic and Cherokee County. Cherokee County lost in the final last year, and Catholic is looking for its first in program history. Catholic, one of two programs to have a representative in the flag football and the football state championship game. So that'll be Friday morning. And then 5A, let's spend the rest of our time talking a little bit about this one. Gulf Shores playing Ramsey on Thursday night. This is, I don't even know how to break this one down because like up here, you don't get to see Gulf Shores, but this is clearly the best Gulf Shores team ever. I mean, if you look at their history, this program has not ever done this, right? So Mark Hudspeth, he comes down there a couple years ago. He comes in with college coaching experience and starts leading this program like a college program. They start offering all these assistant positions, grad assistant positions, like they do all this stuff like a college program. And I think some people were kind of like, what are you doing, man, at the time? But it's clearly worked, along with probably some guys moving in down there that have really bolstered that roster. So we'll see how that goes. Ramsey, they won it all last year. They're looking to go back to back. This is a Ramsey team that is they played some really good competition this year. This is not a team that has just cruised through and flown under the radar. They challenged themselves with the best, and I think it's paid off to get to where they are today.
Yeah, I like looking at, each game stands on its own. We know that. But I do like looking at opponent records and stuff, like especially when it is, like you said, it's a hard game to break down at all because it's Gulf Shores. We don't cover them. We hear about Ramsey, we see who they play. And I got curious about that. And it's like, let me find it. Gulf Shores came into last week with an opponent record of 83-73, more than respectable. I mean,
Sure.
Their opponents are 10 games over 500. That's quality, tough. They're proven, and they've done it to a 14-0 start. Ramsey opponents this year, 101-62.
Not bad.
That is big time proven, and they're only two losses. You get to this time of year, and people don't necessarily they just kind of look at the record. Like you mentioned, Coosa Christian being 9-5. People are like, "Oh man, Leroy's going to roll." Like, no, that's not how this works here.
Yep.
But they're only two losses. They lost to Parker, so they lost to a 6A team, 20-17. Parker was one of the best teams in 6A all year long, and then you lose to 7A Auburn, 13-7. So your two losses are to much bigger schools, and you lost by a total of 9 points.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the defending state champ. I think a game like this, experience and being there and swag and all those things can play a big part. And Ramsey has walked this walk. Gulf Shores, 14-0 is 14-0, and they're going to walk in there confidently. But can you come in there and slow down Cam Keenan, the Ramsey quarterback? If you're Gulf Shores, can you score on that Ramsey defense that's always just so good? And these playoffs, Ramsey, hey, tough sledding to try to slow them down. That offense, we talk about Ramsey's defense and have for years. They just have dudes. They've got big bodies, and they will hold you down. But this offense has been explosive. I mean, 30, 40, 50 points in a game. So I think it's going to be tough sledding for Gulf Shores. But, that one's a fun one. I don't know that we could get an uglier jersey matchup, but the game itself should be really fun, and curious to see if Ramsey can defend its crown and get another one here, or if Gulf Shores gets its first one ever.
Yeah, that's I'm looking forward to this one simply because I want to see Gulf Shores play. I mean the last 2 years have been their first double-digit win seasons in program history. They made a little bit of a run last year, but this year they've rolled all the way to the finals. And this Ramsey team is, they're just so talented, and Ronnie Jackson's done such a good job since he took over. So looking forward to seeing how that goes. One small kind of note, like Ramsey is used to playing at Legion Field, which It holds 72,000 people, and for a high school game, you get a few thousand in there. That's what Bryant-Denny is going to be like this week. Huge stadium, holds 100,000 people, and there's going to be a few thousand people there. So this type of environment and setting is not going to be anything new for Ramsey. They're used to playing in a huge college football facility. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but Ramsey will not walk into this setting and be like, wow, I've only played in front of a 2,000 bleachers stadium before, right? I mean, they'll be used to what that looks like.
Exactly. I think there's something to be said for that. And I'm looking at both these teams in the playoffs, and I mean, with the exception of Ramsey at Moody, which I mean, it still turned out to be a 13-point win, but that was a tough game for Ramsey. I mean, both these teams have just basically been blowing through the playoffs at double-digit clips. I mean, Gulf Shores takes out Beauregard 48-7, then shuts out Charles Henderson 41-zip, 35-14 over Headland, and 45-0 over Eufaula. So I mean that's a quality 4-game run. And on the other side, Ramsey shuts out West Point 50-zip, blows out Leeds 42-7. That's impressive. 40-27 over Moody, like we talked about, and then 35-14 over Gunnersville this last week. So both of these teams, I mean, like you're not going to get wildly inferior opponents in the playoffs, and they've just been rolling past them by and large. So this seems like it was a collision course that probably a lot of people wanted to see. Up in our neck of the woods, this half of the state, everybody knows in 5A it's been Ramsey, Pleasant Grove, and we get Ramsey to try to defend the title, and probably down south, in that Mobile area all year long, on and off the field, the talk has been about Gulf Shores. So I think this is the matchup that people wanted to see, and I'm glad we're getting it this week.
Yeah, something to kind of look at as we get ready for the state championship. The Mobile area has a chance to win 4 state championships. You take Leroy in 1A, Mobile Christian in 3A, Gulf Shores in 5A, and Saraland in 6A. All of those schools are 45 minutes from each other tops. They're all pretty close together. I mean, you take the Birmingham area, Clay-Chalkville in 6A, Thompson in 7A, Ramsey in 5A. I mean, and you can even, I guess you could throw in Winona and Vestavia in the flag. So Birmingham and Mobile areas definitely have a lot of representation. And then, one of my favorite things about being at the state championships is seeing these, like the small towns that aren't close to anybody and not close to anything, and the whole town comes out. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see this week, just the varying, the big time environments, and then the small school games, which are sometimes louder because those people are so passionate, and it's awesome. So high school football will be done in about 5 days. We'll be all done with it. Sad to see it go. And when it does go, Gary will shift his focus to rubbing some nickels together to get out to the Rose Bowl. I know you're pumped about making that trip.
I ain't making that trip.
Yeah, Gary's saving
Where's
up.
Where's the national title?
That's what I was gonna say. You're a seasoned Bama fan. You just say for the championship game it's going to be in Houston. You can drive out to that one.
Yeah, like if they had gotten into the sugar, because there was that talk, like, do you want? I think Ryan Brown from the next round talked about that a lot over the weekend. Was like, look, once you get in the Final Four, they can shift the matchups how they want. And it was like, yeah, would they have deserved to be dropped to number 4? No. But do you want that last Rose Bowl to be Big Ten, Pac-12, kind of tradition, and have Michigan, Washington play there, and have the rematch in the Sugar Bowl of Alabama, Texas? That I might have looked into, but no, we'll potentially save money for a potential national title. We don't don't mess around with these semifinal games anymore. We just
Yeah.
wait on the tickets for the Natty.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't.
I'll be at home watching all of them on TV because I don't have that kind of cash.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you there. The one thing that there's a lot of outrage and there's a lot of political fake outrage about the whole Florida State thing being. Look, the 2004 Auburn team is one of my defining childhood sports memories. Right? No, Danny Cannell is not okay. Um,
Praying for you, Danny,
yeah, I know. So
and your sanity.
when Auburn got left out in 2004, obviously it was a different system. It's a two-team BCS national championship game, whatever. That didn't make it any less disappointing for them to get left out. So, yeah, Auburn fans understand how Florida State fans feel, and at the same time, look, I know Florida State fans think they should be in and they deserve to be in, and they did all that they could do, but let's face it, they would get steamrolled by anybody else in the playoffs right now, and nobody wants that. At the end of the day, the college football playoff it's a product made to entertain the fans the best that it can, and sympathy vote at number 4 so that they can get blown out by 35 by the number 1 seed. That doesn't do anything for anybody. So they're just not one of the best teams in the country right now without their best player. So
And
that's it.
And I mean, I'll go so far as to say, they did what they were supposed to do. They won all the games on their schedule. They had a tough non-conference game against LSU, and they blew them out in August or early September. And they won their conference championship. I just can't help you if your conference sucks. And your conference sucks. Like before the dumpster fire that was the ACC championship game over the weekend between Louisville and Florida State, which was, my gosh, like right now, Florida State is like Iowa. Like, you have an excellent defense, and if you can just get to 13 points, you've got a chance to win the game.
Yep.
But that is ugly, and they would get. I mean, they'd get railroaded in this Final Four, and I mean, just look at when they got invited to the Orange Bowl. So they're going to face Georgia. So Georgia and Florida State were the other two that were like, might we get in? Georgia falls to number 6, and they open as a 2-touchdown favorite over Florida State.
Yeah.
If Georgia is number 6 and a 2-touchdown favorite, what would that have been if they would have had gotten in against and played Washington or played Texas or played Michigan? What would that line have been? And I know it's that's just a line, and upsets happen and stuff like that. But if you're telling me you're going to take that Florida State team out to the Rose Bowl and play Michigan and have a chance, I think you're crazy. And the outrage stuff, I held up the Danny Cannell thing. Danny. You talked about it, under your umbrella in New York or wherever you were over the weekend, crying into your camera about Florida State being left out and it's all a sham and all this stuff. You were a benefactor of this when you played at Florida State. You had one loss and got in over an undefeated West Virginia team. So hush. Your schedule wasn't good enough. And the Jordan Travis injury is probably a bigger reason why you're not getting in. It's kind of instead of looking back at the full body of work, it's now taking what you look like now or what you probably will look like against one of these teams and saying, I mean, Alabama would be more competitive. Georgia would certainly be more competitive, even though Georgia's ranked behind them. You can't, there are 5 power conferences right now, and there are 4 spots. You were the odd man out, and I think the committee got it right. I would have put Georgia at 5 and Florida State at 6, but that doesn't really matter at this point. What matters was the top 4, and Florida State, to me, even all season long, was never a top 4 team. Like, before the ACC title game, I think Florida State had played 4 teams with a winning record all year, and Alabama had 4 current top 21 wins. Like, that's all you need to know.
I mean, they're not one of the best teams, so it doesn't bother me.
Congrats on beating Duke and, barely getting past Boston College and, all of that though.
All
Good
right.
season.
Well, Georgia is one of the 4 best teams, so they're the ones that should
are.
have the gripe, but that doesn't fit the outrage machine.
So, real quick on the outrage machine, I haven't been paying attention to a lot of it to yesterday and today, other than I saw the Danny Cannell video thing, which was hilarious. But I would like to pay close attention to who the outrage is directed at. If it's Alabama, that will tell me a lot about how these people think, because make no mistake, Texas jumped them too. Like, they went to 3. I mean, yeah, Bama got the final spot, but at the end of the day, you got jumped by Texas and Alabama. So if you've got a beef with Alabama jumping you, shouldn't you have a beef with Texas jumping you too?
Well, it'll all be different next year. So looking forward to Michigan killing everybody, winning the championship, and making this all moot.
They ain't gonna win the Rose Bowl.
Okay. Well,
did you see their reaction?
Yeah. They aren't very thrilled about that, nor should they be.
Fear.
All right, we'll be out at the Super 7 this week in Tuscaloosa. I'll be out there all 3 days. Gary might choose to show up. We'll see.
I'll be there Friday.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to being out there for that. If you have any questions about any of the matchups, any of that stuff, be sure to follow us on Twitter. I'm at Kyle Parmley. Gary's at Gary A. Lloyd. There will be all kinds of great content this week leading up to especially Clay-Chalkville in the 6A final on Friday night. So we're looking forward to it, just as you are. We hope to see plenty of you out there this week. So, Gary, get ready, because Friday night's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Will be.
All right. Thank you all for watching and listening all year. We'll see you next time.